oli abagamba musembere eri mu organizing omulundi gumu bannange si bwejeera omusajja byebimu ku bimuganya okujja nayagala kujja nga buli organized wadise moderi temuwalanza mpaka moderi press conference njogere nawe olidde
Ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, I first of all want to sincerely apologize for keeping you waiting. I was supposed to address you at 10 o'clock sharp. Unfortunately, this morning we had one or two challenges that did not allow us to be here in time. Kindly take our apologies, but we do not take your time for granted. Ugandans, I would ordinarily not be addressing this issue because many of us already know that this is meant to derail us, to take our important time that would have addressed our furthering our struggle, and to cast doubt in our credibility and our trust, and of course to affect our public image. However, I'm coming out to address this because I know that baseless as it is, if it's constantly heard without being addressed, there's a possibility that it will maybe be able to fool our gullible supporters. So here we are. I will address this statement in two languages. First in English and also in Uganda. Thereafter, we shall entertain some questions. Let me begin by giving a background. In 1999, when Dr. Kizza Besigye published a letter criticizing the Museveni regime, his life changed immediately and forever. He was arraigned before the military court-martial for apparently airing his views in a wrong forum. In October of the year 2000, he announced that he would run for president in the 2001 general election. Now, if the letter had brought him problems, the declaration that he would challenge President Museveni in an election turned him into the #1 enemy of Museveni and all state institutions in Uganda. This has been the case for the last 20 years. In June 2001, a few months after the election, Dr. Besigye was arrested and questioned over treason. He claimed that he was training rebels in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Soon after this, he was released, but threats against his life increased, and he was forced to run away into exile, where he spent 4 years. In 2005, when he returned to Uganda to participate in the 2006 election, as soon as the campaign started, he was quickly arrested and charged with treason and rape. In charging him with treason, the regime claimed that he had links with the PRA rebels. They also claimed that he was connected to Joseph Kony and the Lord's Resistance Army. Regarding the rape case, the regime claimed that in 1997, 9 years earlier, he had raped a daughter of a deceased colleague, Ewan Joanita Chawali Chakwa. Years later, High Court Judge John Bosco Katutsi dismissed the rape charges as contemptible and as a clear case of persecution by the regime. It should be remembered that that rape case was prosecuted by the current chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Justice Simon Byabaka Mamujeni. General Kaihura and the present Uganda Revenue Authority Commissioner General, Mr. Musinguzi Rujochi, played a critical role in that case. On 16 November 2005, Dr. Besigye and his co-accused persons were taken to the High Court for bail applications. As the hearing was proceeding, armed security men dressed in black raided the court. They surrounded the building and the holding cells in which the successful bail applicants were waiting to be released. As a result of this action, the bail papers could not be processed. The army men, infamously known as the Black Mamba, entered the offices at court and interrupted the processing of the bail. The accused were returned to jail. The army spokesperson at that time, Major Felix Kulaije, told the nation that the Black Mambas had been deployed to rearrest the suspects in case they had been granted bail by the High Court, in order to ensure that they face new charges that had been brought against them in the General Court Martial. The population reacted with anger to these clearly trumped up charges and the persecution. The regime responded by banning all public gatherings, rallies, demonstrations related to this trial, etc. Dr. James Nsababuturo, the then Minister of Information, banned all talk shows in the media and banned all media debates on that matter. And yes, he was quoted as stating that the Broadcasting Council would cancel the licenses of any media house that did not take heed of the ban. When Justice John Bosco Katutsi issued orders against the continued detention and trial of Dr. Besigye and others in the General Court Martial, General Eric Tumwine defied the court. He defied that court order and continued the trial. When the Constitutional Court made further orders against Dr. Besigye's persecution, disguised as prosecution, Museveni vowed to fight the court ruling both legally and politically by appointing what he called cadre judges to the bench. Dr. Besigye would end up being nominated for the 2006 presidential election in jail. Since then, the trials and tribulations of Dr. Besigye, and indeed all those who fought alongside him, have been long and unending. He has since lost count of the numbers that he has been arrested and detained illegally. All of the charges that have been put on him, he has never been convicted with even one. In 2007, his brother Joseph Musasizi Chifefe died under unclear circumstances after spending several years in jail, having been charged with treason and many other charges. Many other Ugandans lost lives in hundreds, if not thousands, as a result of the struggles for freedom and democracy championed by Dr. Kizza Besigye and his fellow strugglers. Indeed, the husband of our deputy president in the National Unity Platform, our deputy president in charge of Northern Uganda, Mr. Roxen Zedriga, has been missing for 20 years now. In February 2006, the state lined up one Mr. Moses Kizige, a member of parliament for Bugabula County and a former presidential advisor, to petition against Dr. Besigye's academic credentials. The petitioner claimed that Dr. Besigye, who was Museveni's qualified personal doctor in the bush, they claimed that he had used another person's marks to join Kitante Senior Secondary School in 1969. When Museveni is fighting his opponents, ladies and gentlemen, he stoops to any level and deploys every tool available for him. Unbelievably, the regime mobilized people from Dr. Besigye's village to come and claim that indeed he had used another person's academic documents 37 years earlier. As usual, the intention of the regime is not that such ridiculous moves will succeed. No. The intention of Museveni is usually to distract his challengers and keep them busy answering very nonsensical questions, to keep them busy in the courts of law, and of course, to embarrass them. Another case in point, ladies and gentlemen, which is related to what is happening now, is that in December 2004, when the Forum for Democratic Change first attempted to register as a political party, the state sponsored some individuals and other parties to ferociously fight against the registration of FDC. Various petitioners claimed that FDC was a rebel group, and they went ahead to challenge its slogan, its name, its symbols as being linked to rebel groups. Years later, a case would be filed in court seeking orders to block FDC from nominating candidates. Fellow Ugandans, I have labored to give this history first and foremost for the benefit of some of our brothers and sisters who were too young to follow these events. Let them know the history of their country. I invite them to read a book by Dr. Olive Kobusinje, known as The Correct Line, and to also read Daniel Karinaki's book, Kizza Besigye and Uganda's Unfinished Revolution. They will understand the character and the nature of Yoweri Museveni, the man who has ruled over our nation for the last 35 years. Secondly, I'm speaking about this history to pay tribute to Dr. Kizza Besigye and other Ugandans that have led the way and those that have paid the ultimate price fighting against General Museveni and his corrupt regime of national shame. As I've consistently said, ladies and gentlemen, we must never forget the incredible sacrifices made by those that came before us. Thirdly and finally, I am talking about this history to remind the nation that the challenges we have faced ever since I announced the plans to run for president in 2021 are not a new phenomenon. They are in fact a pattern of repression and suppression against anyone who has dared to rise up against the regime. That is how Museveni fights, like all cowards. The first attempt of the dictators throughout history is normally to bribe and co-opt their opponents. They rely on intimidation and violence to suppress the voices of dissent against them. If God grants me the opportunity in future, I will give details of how many people the regime has sent to me in the space of 1 week, just after I won the Chadondo East elections, to give me part of the stolen billions in order to silence me. It was after I had made it clear that I was never going to be compromised by them that they changed tactic and deployed full force on me. Aside from the compromise and violence, one of the most compelling tools employed by dictators is the law. Right from the apartheid regime in South Africa, to the Mugabe rule, to Gaddafi, to Omar el-Bashir, to Hosni Mubarak and others, dictators always use the law as an instrument against the opposition. Ever since we started the People Power movement, ladies and gentlemen, the regime has deployed the law in its full force to fight us. In Arua, apart from charging me with possession of machine guns before the military court, guns which later disappeared in thin air. I was charged with treason, annoying the president, and many other ridiculous charges. They even claimed that we had broken a bulletproof car screen with a stone. Later on, I was charged with protesting against the social media tax. I am out on police bond in respect to more than 20 other different incidents. Sometime last year, Uganda Revenue Authority issued me an embarrassingly high tax demand in respect to transactions that I apparently made years back. You will all recall last year, I, together with other leaders of the People Power movement, were sued to the Constitutional Court for operating the People Power movement. The cases against me personally have been numerous. The regime has deployed people to file cases claiming this very land where we stand, where our office is in Kamocha. Another case claiming Magere, where my house is, and other cases claiming Busabala One Love Beach, etc. Where everybody knows that I've owned these properties for more than 10 years, and no one has ever come up to complain. And until I decided to take on President Museveni, this is when all this starts. But any sane person can understand the motivation. Recently, when we officially launched the National Unity Platform political party, some imposters came up claiming that we took over the leadership of the party illegally. As ridiculous as that sounds, the same people who appeared before the press with forged membership cards went on to file a case without the cards they were brandishing before the press. This time, they claimed that the party previously never issued membership cards. Well, since the matter is before the court, I will not go into its details because that will be sub judice. But you can imagine the lack of shame, ladies and gentlemen. We have concrete evidence of which state operatives have been facilitating these people at the expense of the taxpayer. What gives me hope, however, is that these desperate attempts have failed in the past, and yes, they will fail now. Dictators use tricks to divert opponents, to embarrass them and detract them. Every day you spend in court, the regime uses that time to steal more money and to entrench itself in power further. Having said all this, ladies and gentlemen, let me now use this opportunity to address something which has for the past days been a subject of public debate, and I've highlighted above. Whenever the regime has wanted to deter its opponents, some Ugandans have availed themselves to be used as tools. For Dr. Basajja, it was the Chakwas, the Chiziges, the Gilbert Arinetwes, the Abakamas, etc. For me, you see them already, and the list is still growing. When I first ran in Chadon East, you all remember how the regime and its sympathizers did everything to attack my morality. Well, too bad for them, it did not stick, but they have never given up. Now they are seemingly challenging my credentials and desperately trying to cast doubt and portray me as dishonest. To be clear, ladies and gentlemen, in a functioning democracy, leaders should be put on spot and called to question. No leader should be above scrutiny, and in fact, our struggle is meant to promote a culture of accountability by leaders at all levels. But from the pattern I've explained above, this is no quest for accountability. This is witch hunt. What Museveni has mastered is the art of deploying tools to help him in the witch hunt of his opponents. I've lived most of my life in the camera, in the public eye. There's nothing I've not spoken about publicly, including the question of my age and my academics. Now, in public interest, let me yet again set record straight regarding my academic credentials and my age. Are you ready? 1. I was born on the 12th of February 1982, and that was in Nkozi. My brother Julius Warakira, who is wearing shades on the side, who I follow, same mother, same father, was born on the 23rd of October 1979, according to all his official records. There is no way I would be born on the 12th of February 1980 only 3.5 months after the birth of my elder brother from the same woman. I started school in 1986 at St. Mary Goretti Nursery School in Kamocha, right behind this building. For P2, for P1, it is now called Aria Primary School. It is in Kamocha, right up there. For my P2, and that was in 1987. For my P2, I went to Kanoni Umeya Primary School. Umeya is Uganda Muslims Education Association, and that was in 1988. That is where I learned reciting Islamic prayers, and those have stayed with me all through up to today. That was in 1988. For my P3, I went to Kasaka Primary School in Gomba. That was 1989. For my P4 and P5, I went to Kanoni Catholic School from 1990 up to 1991. For my P6, I went to St. Aloysius Primary School in Bukalaji in 1992. While I was at Bukalaji in P6, my father went and requested Mr. Kato, the headmaster of my former school, Kanoni Catholic School, to allow me register and sit for P7 exams. I therefore spent my third term of P6 in P7. I registered and sat PLE in 1992. My father was advised, and please quote this, my father was advised that in order for my age to match with that of other candidates, including my elder brother Julius Warakira, who was sitting PLE at Bukalaji the same year, he needed to increase my age by 2 years, and that is when my year of birth was altered from 1980. Despite sitting PLE without studying P7, I passed very well and went to senior 1. But I would continue with this anomaly in my age throughout my education, both at senior 4, at senior 6, and at university. 9 years ago, in 2011, my late father, J.W. Sentamu, talked about this story in a video recording which is available. Similarly, 14 years ago, in 2007, my elder brother Eddie Awe was interviewed by the New Vision 14 years ago. An extract of this is available. He spoke of how I skipped P7 and sat PLE. The same fact is spoken in previous different interviews by my elder brother Chairman Nyanzi there from as far back as 2008. I have done several interviews in which I've spoken about this. It was at the point of getting my first passport in the year 2000, in the month of March, that I decided to correct this anomaly in my date of birth to reflect the real date of birth, which is February 12, 1982. I remember swearing an affidavit to reflect this change, which is what is required at the passport office. That is exactly what was required at the passport office by then. I saw some misguided people claiming that I changed my age at the time when I was going to run for parliament in 2017. No, all my records outside my academic documents since 2000 bear my true year of birth. Regarding the arrangement and spelling error of my names, I swore a statutory declaration in 2017 as required by law and filed this accordingly. It was on this basis that I was nominated to be a member of Parliament for Chadondo East constituency. At that time, I also applied for verification of my UNEP results, and they were verified. I hope this clarification brings comfort to all those well-intentioned supporters and comrades who might have been worried about these schemes. I have been a law-abiding citizen who values and treasures integrity, my shortcomings here and there notwithstanding. If my legal team deems it fit to undertake any other steps to clarify these issues in light of the most recent jurisprudence, they will do so, and I will inform you friends accordingly. For now, we stand confidently right before the law and any other moral code. The detractors, the haters, as we always say, are going to die in their own movie. Back to my education. Cinema. So when I proceeded to secondary school, I went to St. Maria Goretti Secondary School in Katende for my senior 1 first term. That was 1993. For senior 1 second term up to senior 3, I was at Brain Trust Academy in Rubaga. That was 1993 to 1995. For my senior 4, I went to Chitante Hill School, and that is where I did my senior 4, the Uganda Certificate of Education, in 1996. For senior 5, first term, I went to Alliance Advanced School there in Kamocha Market. And that was, for senior 5, second term, I went to Rubiri Secondary School. That was 1997, and unfortunately that is the time where I lost my mother and I could no longer proceed with Rubiri Secondary School in boarding. So I had to leave. For senior 5, third term, I went to Kololo Senior Secondary School, right there. Still in 1997, I stayed there until I completed my senior 6 in November and December of 1998. I was then admitted to Makerere University for a bachelor's degree in social sciences. I studied for the whole year, majoring in anthropology, political science, and economics, but later I dropped out of the course because I lacked tuition. I applied for a diploma in music, dance, and drama, still at Makerere University, because I was aiming at getting a government scholarship. I did not have the money. I had started, besides that, I had started picking interest in music and drama. In the year 2000, I was admitted on government sponsorship, on a government scholarship to study music, dance, and drama in Makerere University, and I graduated in 2003. The good thing is that for all my school life, for each of these schools I have mentioned, I studied with well-known people, celebrities, and outstanding people in society. And it is my hope and prayer that those people that I went to school with will come out and confirm the words that I'm saying. As it is well known, ladies and gentlemen, in August of 2016, I decided to go back to school. This time, I wanted to pursue legal studies. I joined the International University of East Africa in Kansanga for my law degree. A few months later, when Cavendish University opened the law school here in Kamocha, I transferred from IUEA because Kamocha was much nearer to my workplace, Firebase, which used to be here. I also did a short course in leadership for 21st century at Harvard. I'm currently enrolled at the Southern New Hampshire University for further studies. I've had to put both my studies at Cavendish and SNHU on a hold on account of my busy schedule and the ongoing persecution. But God willing and time permitting, I hope to complete those courses at the right time. By this time, I'm sure that the question on everybody's mind is why I was always moving from one school to another. Well, I have told this story many times, but let me repeat it right here. That my life was a hustle. My life was more than 30 biological children and many other dependents. And this put a lot of pressure on his finances. Actually, apart from the fact that my father considered me very brilliant, one of the reasons why he was desperate to see me skip classes and finish school was to avoid the cost of school fees. That is why it was good for him financially when I skipped classes. My mother too, in my formative years, was not doing so well, and yet she had 10 biological children and other dependents to look after all by herself. So I found that I had to move from school to school because of school fees problems. Some well-to-do Ugandans may not understand this, but I'm sure the poor people, the ghetto people understand this kind of life. And I'm a real product of ghetto life. I am proud of this history because my greatest motivation is that. And I want to change the lives of these people because I understand their hustle. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, fighting a dictator is no simple task. You lose friends, you are stabbed in the back, you are persecuted, you are prosecuted, you are slandered, you are maligned, you are embarrassed, you are threatened, you are attacked,